Reform. Nigel Farage will give a speech later this morning, I would say ostensibly cashing in on the tax chaos consuming Keir Starmer's administration right now as the Prime Minister and indeed the Chancellor stage all of these backtrack U-turns amid the growing unpopularity of, for example, the axing of the winter fuel allowance. Chaos at number 10. Chaos in Whitehall over this. Nigel Farage will cash in with a major speech, basically saying, I will completely, no questions asked, restore the winter fuel allowance. I will also get to grips with the cuts in welfare and benefits that the Labour Party are proposing. So really, you've got this ostensibly right-wing leader of the Reform UK Party who's going to be announcing what you might imagine a kind of socialist kind of initiatives, really.
Yeah, certainly. I think that it's the kind of audacious stealing of Labour clothes that, say, successful politicians like Boris Johnson were able to do in the past, putting the tanks on Labour's lawn. This was something Nigel Farage talked about during the election campaign in terms of going after County Durham and the Red Wall votes there. But now we're seeing a bit of a policy offering to back that up too. I think there's a couple of reasons for this, I think one of which is that they can justify it in the sense of, look, currently we provide a lot for the people who aren't our citizens and not much for our own ones. We're going to inverse that relationship, and what we're going to have is people protected. Farage standing up there for a sort of 1970s version of the welfare state. And I think the second thing, of course, is that it's a useful way of sort of making political hay out of Labour divides. There's going to be a big vote next month on the welfare bill, 5 billion in disability cuts, we're led to believe. As a result of that, Farage is happy there to run to the front of the queue and make a big song and dance about two-child benefit cap and having other sort of breaks in the welfare system. And as a result of that, he's the one who looks like he's calling the tune rather than the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Absolutely. But of course, in order to fund these U-turns and this backtracking that's going on at considerable pace at Labour Towers right now, this is going to mean more tax rises. There's talk, a lot of the papers saying that there'll have to be another £30 billion tax raid by the Chancellor. All of her fiscal rules, all of this discipline flying out of the window as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be something they're very worried about for two reasons. One of which, of course, in the economic sense is, will the bond markets buy it? If there's going to be, more borrowing, they'll have to get that by them. And given what we saw earlier this year, where Rachel Reeves had a real scare back in January when the bond market looked to be selling off UK gilts, that's a real concern. The second thing, of course, is the political crisis that comes from saying that you're going to have to raise taxes, which, of course, Rachel Reeves went to the CBI in November, said, I'm not coming back for more, after just raising taxes by 35 billion, the biggest single tax-raising budget in more than 30 years. If she has to go back again, it's a humiliation for her. And I think that as a result of that, it's going to be the pressures on for savings. It's a very difficult spending review currently going on in Whitehall. We think the only winners are going to be the health and defence services. But right now, as you say, it's going to be all about tax rises. And no party, frankly, is willing to go and take an act of the public service sending that needs to take place.
It really is a mess. Still with problems for the Labour government. Militant resident doctors launch strike ballot over NHS pay and call for walkouts, firing the starting gun on a Labour summer of discontent. So yes, once again, these pesky medics look like they're going to walk out. Now, Labour, of course, their way of solving industrial disputes in the public sector is to basically say, how much would you like? Yes, we can give you that. But they probably are going to have to draw the line this time, and they're not going to just be able to hand this money to the doctors, are they? So this will be the moment where Labour has to sort of pull up the drawbridge, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the BMA have acted pretty hard line on all of this. They said they weren't going to negotiate unless they got a 5% pay rise. They got a 5% pay rise. But the first things Labour did in office was settle on the junior doctors. And yet, of course, they're still threatening more industrial action. So I think that the junior doctors and the doctors are realising that they've obviously got a lot of public opinion normally on their side. But actually, I think if they carry on with their behaviour, they do risk alienating some of that. For Labour, the problem is that, of the first year in office, of all the health, of all the different public services, health is perhaps the most encouraging in terms of getting waiting lists down. Every pound that goes into paying for wages rather than service improvements, of course, means that you might put that at risk. So I do think it's going to be a crisis for Labour. Are they going to be willing to turn on those who will make up the health service, given how much praise they've given them? And I worry that if they don't, stand up on this issue, they're either going to look weak or they're going to sort of get distracted from the virtuous path of getting waiting lists down and improving the NHS in terms of reform.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Lindsay Hoyle, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker. Why is this guy costing us so much money? We've seen all these stories. The last 3 years, he's been on something like £270,000 worth of luxury foreign trips all over the world, staying in flash hotels, 900 quid a night, hiring chauffeurs to ferry him around. When he went to the Caribbean, he went to Montserrat, he even hired a private jet. He's been taking members of his staff, taking his wife along. I think she was eventually paid for, to be fair, but very serious questions being asked about this guy's expenditure. He says it's all part of his job. He's got to sell Britain abroad. He's got to apparently travel the world telling them how important it is that we support Ukraine. I wouldn't necessarily have thought that was central to the Speaker's equation in terms of his job. And also he took 300 free gifts over the past 3 years, visiting dignitaries, handing in these gifts. He's kept nearly all of them. Questions being asked about that. He spent £7 million doing up his apartments in the Palace of Westminster. Fabulous view down the River Thames, apparently. There's a £36,000 portrait of this guy hanging in the Westminster corridors of power. And now we learn, James, that in the past 2 years, his number of staff working in the Speaker's office has gone up from 12 to 21. The staffing bill, the wages bill as it were, has gone up from £550,000 to over £1 million in 2 years. Now, the reason I keep banging the drum about this guy is if people like you and me, James, don't ask the questions, he will never be brought into check, because MPs are terrified to criticise him because they need him to call them to make their little speeches that they think will propel them to high office and make their careers glitter. So the MPs will never question this guy. We have to question him. Why is he costing us so much money?
Well, I think that I spoke to a friend of Lindsay Hoyle's who said that the problem with Lindsay is that he has a nothing's too good for the workers mentality. He will have sat there for 25 years and seen other speakers perform these similar sort of acts of largesse, and he thinks he can now do the same. Now, I think that there's a whole range of spending here, which some of it is justifiable, some of which isn't. So I would argue that it's more justifiable, say, for instance, to keep a historic Grade 2 listed Palace of Westminster, up to scratch. I think that's more justifiable. What is less justifiable is trips to foreign countries in business class, where they don't even have a speaker, where they're not even democracies, in the name of ostensibly promoting speaker-led democracy, whatever that means, parliamentary democracy initiatives around the world. I think that is a less defensible thing to do. And obviously the question is, why does he need so many staff? Now, I think they'll talk about sort of restructuring, they'll talk about things coming in, but I mean, it's quite something when you make John Bercow look like a model of restraint.
It certainly is, yeah. Come back, John, all is forgiven. James, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. James Heale there, political correspondent of The Spectator.